honest and respectful discord in society, especially about politics, right? It's hard. It's really, really hard. So it starts with you, right? It starts with you setting that intention and bringing an open heart and an open mind to the conversation, right? So you have to be mindful of your biases, of your hidden motives, of where you contract and get defensive. It's all about our ability to open up and be with life, be with reality, be in the present moment, be in love. That's what it's all about at the end of the day. And the more that you can do that, the more you can bring that atmosphere to the table, to the conversation, and the more there's a likelihood that it will happen. But it's hard because people contract, right? The reason that we feel that we get so emotional when it comes to these political conversations is that we feel personally attacked, right? Somehow we feel that our identity is attacked, or that if we concede this point, we will have to change our behavior in some way that we don't want to, or that it's going to have other ripple effects. Like if I change this belief, what about this other belief and this other belief? And all of a sudden it literally feels like the ground is disappearing under you and you're in free fall, and it's scary as fuck, right? So we have to be understanding and compassionate of that. That's how it feels to people. That's how it feels to us sometimes, right? So, be gentle with people and be understanding. So if you come into it not trying to convince but trying to learn, the way I look at it is like it comes down to perceptions and values. Like those are the core things. Like what am I perceiving is actually happening in the world, right? May be true, may not be true, right? We don't like, but this is my perception. Your perception is going to be different from mine. Right? You have a different upbringing, different belief system, a different experience, just a different vantage point. So your perspective is going to be different. So if we put both of our sets of eyes and ears and minds together, we'll be a lot smarter and a lot wiser than just one of us. Right? But if all we're doing is parroting beliefs and opinions that we've heard on TV or read on Twitter, then the conversation isn't moving that much further, right? We need to have that openness and willingness to learn and to grow and to question. Like, I saw this thing, is it actually true? Like, one of the things that people talk about right now is how, companies have a hard time finding employees because we've paid people a lot of money in stimulus checks to not work, and that makes it, people not want to work. I've heard that over and over again. Is it true? I don't know, right? It's really hard to know, right? Like it might be true that companies are complaining that it's hard to find people. Are they complaining more than they were? Is it actually harder, or do they just feel that way? Do we have numbers? How would we get numbers? If it is true, can we know that the reason why is because of stimulus, actually, or could it be some other reason? Like, I mean, these are things that are really hard to grasp at. We're trying to aggregate what happens with hundreds of millions of people and into like a single, easy, convenient narrative, right? So those narratives are almost always going to be false. There may be some truth to it, but like that, it's a lot of digging. One of my favorite things to do is literally like slow way down, right? It's hard, and it's hard to get your companion to do it as well. But like any statement like that, right? Companies find it hard to hire people because people don't want to work because of stimulus checks, right? That's one sentence. You can like drill down super deep into that. Companies, which companies? How do we know that these companies find it hard? How do we measure that? How do they know, right? Like you can drill down into every single element of that, kind of like I just did before, and that's where we learn. And it's hard to do that without coming off as you're trying to attack the other person. So it's really important to try to question, be open mind. Like, I want to understand, what is your perspective? What data points do you have? Where do you have this from? I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm not saying it's right either. A pro tip is try to avoid the word why, because why, when you ask why, it automatically tends to feel accusatory, right? Or argumentative. So instead saying, hey, tell me more about that. tell me about where you've heard that or where you've seen that, or that's a way to phrase it so it feels less attacky. Because the last thing that you want to do is for your companion to start to contract. You can see it physically, right? Like we start to tense up and our breath starts to get more shallow, and we're like you want to keep that open physical, like energetic posture between you guys, because that's where you have the chance to actually learn something. So it's the two things, the perceptions and the values. So the perceptions is like we see things differently, and if we can see through each other's eyes and different perspective, then we learn more, right? It's also like what's actually my perception, what I've experienced versus what I've heard other people say that they've experienced specifically versus the narrative that someone else has spun, right? Because we're constantly making up narratives based on little anecdotes and little pieces of evidence, and do we know that it's representative, or like what does it even mean when you drill down? Like that happens all the freaking time, right? And so values is like what do you value, right? For me, human creativity, human life force is something that I find super sacred. Jonathan Haidt breaks it down to 6 core fundamental moral values that everybody holds. I forget all of them, like authority and sacredness and fairness, and like there's 6 that anyone has across any culture. And what he finds is in his phenomenal book, or The Righteous Mind, is that conservatives tend to value all 6 of them fairly equally, whereas liberals or progressives or people on the left tend to value 4 of them very highly and 2 of them not as much. But it doesn't mean that they don't have them, right? So when you get down to the values level, you can be like, I don't necessarily like hold the same value, but like to the same extent that you do, but I do recognize that value, and I can respect the fact that you value it a lot and I value it not so much, right? And then we can have a productive conversation. What up, YouTube? Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, even if you freaking didn't, hit the subscribe button so you get more videos from me, and also hit the bell button so you get tick, 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 notified whenever there is a new video from me. Thank you very much. I'll catch you next time.